All right, we're progressing from the first Greek civilizations, which were on what island? Everybody say it together.
Greece.
Crete, good. Took you a second to think about it, but that's good. And what was the name of the first civilization? First European civilization, first Greek civilization that was on the island of Crete?
Minoans.
Minoans. And that was named after what king?
Is it Minos or Minos?
Minos or Minos or Minos or however you want to say that. That's close. And what was the creature that was famous in under the Minoan civilization?
Wasn't it bull?
What was it called?
The Minotaur?
The Minotaur. Yeah, right here.
Oh.
There's just the head up. If you put it on your body, then it would be a Minotaur. Okay. That was followed by what civilization?
Mycenaeans.
Mycenaean. And what was the competing city across the water that they had a war with?
Was it Troy?
Yeah, Troy, right. And so that's what we have here. The Trojan War was between the Mycenaeans here, and they're also down here with Troy over here. That takes us then to what's called the Greek Dark Ages. It's also called the Homeric Age. Oops, so one more picture. This is an ancient gold mask found from the Mycenaean era. Some suggest that it was Agamemnon, but probably not. I guess most scholars say it's not, but interesting gold funeral mask, essentially. All right, next we come to the Dark Ages, or the Homeric Age, named after this guy, because this is when Homer wrote. I shouldn't say wrote, composed his poetry. He was blind, so he didn't actually write it down. It was passed on orally, and finally somebody wrote it down later. During the Homeric Age, the Greeks lived a simple, isolated lifestyle which blended the distinctive elements of the Aegean world, around the Aegean Sea, into a common Greek culture. So there were a lot of individual cities that eventually started sharing together and living alike in that area. And of course, Homer composed his epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, and you should remember that. As during this time period that you have developing what we might call Greek mythology, and that is all the different gods. They were polytheistic, that is, they had a lot of different gods, and their gods have anthropomorphic qualities. In other words, they're like human beings in a lot of ways. And they contrast with other systems of religion in other places in several distinct ways. First of all, in Greek mythology, there was no powerful priesthood. And all the cultures we've studied in the past, there are priests that conduct the ceremonies, that enforce the religion upon the people. But we don't have a priesthood with Greek mythology. The priests were simply public officials that were appointed to perform certain religious rites. So someone would be appointed to carry out the sacrifices. Secondly, they lacked an otherworldliness. They lacked otherworldliness. The Greek religion was concerned with the present and emphasized earthly needs. They didn't really have a great emphasis on the hereafter. Now, they had a hereafter, but that wasn't their emphasis. Thirdly, they lacked a system of ethics. Unlike other cultures that had lists of what was right and wrong, the Greeks didn't. That was an individual thing. A person's belief was a private affair unless it upset the established rituals or denied the existence of the gods. So you came up with your own system of right and wrong. Michael?
What was the first one?
First one, there was no powerful priesthood. All right, any questions? You got them all? Understand them all? All right, let's talk about some of the gods. First of all, anybody have an idea who this might be? This is a drawing, a painting of what the statue is supposed to look like of Athena. And as you notice, she's clothed in robes. And in her right hand, as you can see, you can't see it very well, but in her right hand is another little statue. That is the statue of Victory. And the name of Victory is Nike. Just like the shoe. On her helmet is a sphinx. And on her breastplate is a Medusa. All right, so what did you find out about Athena?
She's the goddess of war.
Goddess of war. Okay, what else?
I had the goddess of war and wisdom.
And wisdom. Yeah, in fact, I'll show you a picture later of a choice that she gave Athens as to whether to follow her or another god, and she promised wisdom that they followed her. Daniel?
Should I follow these in?
Yeah. Okay, anything else about Athena?
I heard that she was the goddess of strategic war.
Okay. So she was a good planner, in other words, of war. True?
Yeah. Guardian of Athens.
Yeah, and particularly of Athens, right? That's where her temple is in Athens, on the Acropolis called the Parthenon. Okay, here is a place called Delphi. Delphi, anybody know anything about Delphi? Did you come across that when you were looking at gods? Delphi was a particular place where you would seek out Apollo. Apollo, did anybody find out what form he appeared in? He would appear in the form of an animal. In the form of a dolphin. So that came to be associated with him. And supposedly he would communicate to people here at Delphi. So oftentimes you might hear about people going to consult the oracle at Delphi. And this would be either a person or a group of people that went into a trance, and supposedly Apollo would communicate through them. That the spirit that overtook them was called the spirit of Python, just like the snake. Interesting that they had the spirit of a snake that was communicating to them. Does that remind you of anything? Yeah, right. So this is the place where that occurred, and of course it was. This is just what's left of it. But most of the columns are gone. But try to imagine if they're all up, constructed just like the ones you see that are still intact. So people came from all over Greece and beyond to have their questions about the future answered by the Pythia, the priestess of Apollo. And her answers were usually cryptic. That means kind of hidden, kind of a mystery. And so you had to try to figure it out. And they would be anything from when planters should plant their crops to when an empire should declare war. They would go there to try to get information about the future. But because the information was given in rather mysterious ways, sometimes there were arguments over what the oracle actually meant, because you couldn't tell for sure. So it seemed like a exercise in futility, maybe. But the oracle was always happy to give another prophecy as long as you could give more gold. Oh, you didn't understand that last one? Okay, I've got another one. Maybe. You give me money. Okay, so that's Delphi. Here's just a picture of a Greek priestess and noble women. You can just see how they dressed. Here's another one of the princess of ancient Greece. Now let's look at some of the gods. See, was Cronus on your list?
No.
No? Anybody know anything about Cronus and Ray? Cronus is considered the father of all the gods. And so Zeus is, of course, the head of the gods, but he came from Cronus. Okay, what did you find out about Zeus?
I had he was the king of the gods, but he was the god of the sky, lightning, and thunder.
Okay, good. Anything else? So you all see lightning coming from Zeus. What about Hera? Who's Hera?
She's Zeus's sister and queen of the gods.
She's
Zeus's sister.
Zeus's sister
And queen of the gods.
and queen of the gods, so she's also his wife.
Yes. Her significant or sacred animal is a peacock, and she is the goddess of fertility and marriage.
Fertility and marriage, being the mother god, goddess, queen of the gods. Fertility is considered her area, marriage, family. Okay, anything else about Hera? And let's see, who should we do next? We've talked about Athena already. Anything to add about Athena? I think we already covered everything there. Okay, let's go to Ares. What'd you find about Ares? Is he on your list? No? Okay. What do you know about Ares?
He's the god of war and he's the lover of Aphrodite.
All right, so maybe we should put him down there if we don't have him. God of war, and here's Aphrodite down here. He's in love with her. Okay, I don't think we had Hephaestus, did we?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Oh, we do? Okay, what'd you find?
It's just not spelled that.
Hephaestus.
What'd you find out about this god? Well,
He's the god of fire and metalworking.
fire and metalworking. Okay, see how those two things kind of go together? Because you need fire in order to work metal. Michael?
While all the other gods were like kind of like perfect beings and looked really good, he was like the only ugly god.
Oh, that's interesting. And I notice, at least in this picture, he has a beard. Is that to cover up? Well, of course, Zeus has one too, so never mind. What else?
Some students say he's ugly because he's the child of Hera and Zeus, and if you took one look at him after he was born and threw him down the mountain of Atlantis.
Oh, wow.
Okay then.
That was,
And some other speculations say that whenever a volcano erupts or there's an earthquake, Hephaestus is working in the mountains because he took up huge there and was wrapped in water.
okay, interesting. So the fire can be the fire coming out of the mountain, too. All right, let's go to Aphrodite. What'd you find out about her? She on your list? Should be. Okay. Anna, what did you have for Aphrodite? Goddess of love. Does anyone know her Roman name? You probably know her better by that.
Venus.
Venus. You've heard of Venus, right? Maybe more than Aphrodite. Okay, anything else about Aphrodite? Victoria,
She was born out of the sea.
born out of the sea. Yeah, in fact, the most famous painting during the Renaissance of her shows her in a huge clamshell. And that one's just called Venus. Anything else about Aphrodite? All right, let's see. Let's go this way. We've talked about Athena. How about Apollo? What'd you find about Apollo, Michael?
He's the son of Leto and Zeus. And I guess he was a great archer. He was a song.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They competed in the Olympics.
All right. Ryan?
God of music, poetry, art, and a lot of other stuff.
Okay, so music, poetry.
I had healing and medicine.
Okay, so all pretty good stuff.
I had also that was to college his son.
The sun, yeah. So yeah, every culture has a sun god, and most of the cultures that is the main god or one of the main gods. Apollo is, we've got to throw something in here. Somebody's got to be the sun god, and it's him. But he is not the one in charge like in many cultures. Anything else about Apollo? Okay, and then we have with him Artemis. What'd you find about Artemis? Ryan?
She was a huntress.
Okay.
Huntress or goddess.
Okay, anything else? Jonas?
Twin sister of Apollo.
Okay, so that's why they're here together.
And I thought it was really funny that some people say she's the goddess of the moon, and so she and Apollo are twins, and he's the sun, and she's the moon.
Yeah, that's good. The sun and the moon. Let's see what we got next here. Hermes. Who's Hermes? Oh, wait a minute. Before Artemis. What's her name among the Romans? Jonas? Diana, right. And do you remember what city was dedicated to Artemis or Diana? Had a temple for her there, produced figurines of her. Paul visited there, and a riot ensued because these people became Christians. They stopped buying all the little idols. The city of Ephesus. These are the idols that they were selling, only they were made out of silver. This is not. I couldn't afford a silver one. But this is Artemis. Now, this is not the original Greek image of Artemis. This, it seems like they combined the Asherah of over further to the east with Artemis to come up with this one. But this is the image that they were selling in Ephesus. Next we have Hermes. Who's Hermes?
Like the messenger god.
Right. How's he pictured usually? Don't see it here, but a lot of times you see him with a particular feature. Yeah, wings on his feet, and also on his, he wears a helmet that has, I think, little wings on it as well.
He's also known as the trickster god.
Ah, so he likes to run around playing tricks. Okay. Anything else? What's he called in among the Romans?
Mercury.
Mercury. Yeah. So some of these we know better by their Roman names, some not. Okay, what about Hestia or Hestia? Let's find out about her. No. Right, a hearth. A hearth is basically the fire or fireplace that a person has in their home. That's kind of the center of the home. It's where the food is cooked. It's where people gather. So oftentimes the hearth itself is associated with the home. So she's the goddess of home.
All mine said was she's just not important.
Yeah.
Not important,
Yeah.
okay, in the whole scheme of things. Yeah, that's what she's way out here in the edge. All right. And you know anything else about Hestia?
She's the goddess of the and she's not very important, but she does keep Olympus warm by tending to get tired.
Ah, so she has a good job keeping Olympus warm. All right, then we have Demeter. Let's find out about Demeter. You have that one?
Yep.
Okay, Joel?
Harvest and fertility.
All right. Anything else? Victoria?
She fights a lot with Hades because her daughter Persephone, and that's how the Simpsons became to be because Hades stole Persephone into the underworld, and then Zeus had to come between them and make an agreement that 6 months of the year Persephone would be Demeter, which is spring, and then the other 6 months would be with Hades, which is fall.
Good explanation. Did y'all get that? Hopefully they have it on the camera too, so we won't try to repeat all that. Good explanation of Demeter and his relationship with Persephone and Hades. All right, so let's go to Hades next. Who is Hades? Evan?
He was the king of the dead, and he was also the king of the underworld.
Right, the king of the underworld. That's where the dead go. Anything else about Hades? Victoria, you're a resident expert.
He has a 3-headed dog that guards the gate.
Yeah, 3-headed dog. What's that dog called? Do you know, Michael?
No, I was
Isn't that like Circles or something?
Yes. I'm trying to think of the exact spelling of it. I can't think of it. What else, Michael?
I had a totally different stuff, but it's that I said he possessed the. Again, I can't read my own handwriting. And another thing is that he had a hat that made him invisible.
Oh, that would come in handy, wouldn't it? Ryan?
I also had that he was the god of wealth.
Of wealth.
That's wrath.
Wrath. That sounds. You treated Miss Poppy?
Maybe I did. I'm
Wrath.
not sure.
Because I. What do you think? Well?
What it could be because there's a bunch, he's underground and there's a bunch of like gems underground.
Oh, okay. That could be then. All right, what do we have left? Poseidon. You've all heard of Poseidon, I think, haven't you? Who's Poseidon? Landon?
The god of the sea and flooding.
Yeah, the god of the sea. So oftentimes you'll see pictures of him coming up out of the sea holding what? A trident. Yeah. Usually, bearded and all that. And what's his name among the Romans? Neptune. Right. Okay, here's a picture of all of the gods and their relationship. A lot more than what we covered. And it's really hard to even try to delineate who is related to whom, how, but there it is. See anybody interesting or anybody about which you have a question? All right, let's skip through some of them again. Okay, so Zeus is the head of the gods. And this is a replica of what the statue of Zeus on his throne may have looked like on Olympus. Here's another one of him, and that same thing. Here's a statue of Hera, his wife, and notice he is holding in his hand, I believe that's Nike also, the goddess of victory. Then we have Artemis and Hermes. This one shows Artemis as a huntress. Hermes, of course, with the wings on his hat. I don't know if you can see his feet or not. He's the messenger god. And here's Artemis again with Apollo, as they are siblings. And then Athena and Dionysius. So we didn't talk about him. Is Dionysius on your list? I think, is that the Roman name?
Yeah.
That's the Greek name? Okay. Oh, that's right. The Roman name is Bacchus. All right. Who's Dionysius? Michael?
I said he was the god of the vine. Or like him.
The vine.
Yeah.
Yeah, meaning what?
Plants.
What particular plant?
Almost in the wine.
Yeah, especially wine. Yeah, he's the one that they celebrate by drinking wine to excess. All right, so if you have what the Romans called a Bacchian party, that means you're having a lot of drinking, and people get drunk. All right, anything else about Dionysius?
He had a big crowd of followers.
Yeah, because they like to drink. Right? He still has a lot of followers today. They just don't realize it. Anything else?
Well, his followers are very ferocious and very brutal towards him not drinking.
So they were mad drunks.
Yeah.
Not happy drunks, mad drunks. Okay. Now, this is something I found interesting. Were there any gods we didn't talk about? We got them all? Okay, take a look at this. Of course, their gods were in charge of different things. We have the god of the hearth, the god of hunting, god of vines, grapes, wine, all that. Yeah, so different gods. So if you wanted something, you would have a different god you'd pray to. So here's the list. If you wanted moderation, if you wanted advice about the future, then you go to Apollo. And here you, of course, go to the Delphi, the Oracle of Delphi for this. Onset of war, satisfaction of aggressive impulses, you would go to Ares, called Mars by the Romans. In parentheses, we have the Roman equivalent. If you wanted freedom from social expectations or ecstatic union with the god, or you want a real emotional experience with the god, which included getting drunk, then you go to Dionysius. If you wanted to win the love of your beloved, you would go to Eros or Cupid. You're familiar with Cupid, probably. If you wanted death to your enemies, you would pray to Hades, bring death to my enemies. If you wanted skill in making machinery and working at the forge, you would call on Hephaestus, or Vulcan is the Roman name. If you wanted prosperity as a trader or merchant, you would go to Hermes. If you wanted success for hunters, find animals to hunt, you'd go to Pan. If you wanted a safe journey by sea, obviously Poseidon. If you wanted success in building an empire, if you want to have firm rule and control, then you go to the one who is in control, and that's Zeus. If you wanted irresistible good looks, you go to Aphrodite. She's the one that passes that out. If you wanted an easy childbirth or success in running, you go to Artemis. I'm not sure the relationship between the two, but apparently Artemis could do either one. If you wanted clever strategies, if you wanted to have domestic skills, practical wisdom, you go to Athena. If you wanted to have lots of children or lots of crops, you go to Demeter. If you wanted wealth or magical powers, you go to Hecate. If you wanted protection at the home and hearth, you go to Hestia. If you wanted faithfulness in marriage, you go to Hera, because she's married to Zeus. And if you wanted inspiration in poetry and music, you go to the Muses. That's where we get our word music, is from the Muses. That's what they were great at. All right, so you find that interesting? You have different gods for different things that you want. Now, what is also somewhat interesting is how that Greek and Roman, especially, understanding of the gods started to filter into the church. So that in Roman mythology, when a person dies, it's Charon or Charon that takes them. In the Roman Catholic Church, it's the angel of death. It takes the dead person's soul to. For the Romans, it was the adamantine gate. For the church, it became the pearly gates. The gatekeeper is Cerberus, or Cerberus. For the Christians, it was Peter. The soul passes through Erebus. The Christians changed it to purgatory, where he is judged. If he is good, he goes on to the Elysian fields, or the Roman Catholic Church said you go to heaven, where he enjoys eternal bliss. If you're bad, you go on to Tartarus. For the Greeks and Romans, you go to hell in the church, where Pluto and the Greeks and Romans tortures him forever, and here Satan tortures him forever. So much of what the church began to believe came from, not the scriptures, but from Roman mythology. They just substituted. For example, they substituted this. We see that Nimrod is the Lord of Heaven, and in these different cultures, you see Baal, El, Zeus, Jupiter, Ra, Vishnu, on down, Odin. Tammuz is the pagan Messiah. We have Tammuz, Bacchus fulfills that in the Phoenicians. Hercules in Assyria, Dionysius, Krishna. Quetzalcoatl in Mexico is the Messiah. That's who the Aztecs thought Cortez was. When he landed, they thought he was Quetzalcoatl come back as the Messiah who promised to come back someday. And you have Semiramis, the Queen of Heaven, the Ashtoreth. We've seen that in the area of Lebanon, the Middle East, Astarte, Ishtar, Aphrodite, Cybele, Diana, Isis, Hathor, and so on. All these different Frida in Scandinavia. So we have these different gods really coming through in all the different civilizations. Presumably, after the Tower of Babel, they took ideas of gods with them, and so they had much of the same gods. And the church began to embrace these same ideas as well. Okay, that goes on to the next thing, which is the Olympics. Okay, so we've talked about the gods and goddesses. You have an idea of what they're like. We have a lot more detail about them than we did other gods and goddesses in the past civilizations. And we find that they have a lot more influence even on us today. You know, you think about Valentine's Day. Who's pictured Valentine's Day all the time? Cupid, right? And there's other gods and goddesses that find their way into our culture even today. All right, do you have any questions about any of the mythology? All right, for tomorrow, we're going to get our Chromebooks and we're going to do some research on the Olympics. Time. Let's see, how much time do we have left? We don't have time left, do we? Okay, never mind. We'll do that. We'll do that tomorrow. So get Chromebooks tomorrow. What I want you to do for tomorrow, though, for homework, is to read the article that's in your packet called "The Odyssey of Homer" and answer the questions that are there. Read the Odyssey of Homer, answer the questions. We'll talk about that tomorrow, and then we'll also do some research on the Olympics. Okay, everybody find it? The Odyssey of Homer. Just want you to know a little bit about the Odyssey.
We don't do Spartan training.
No.
Okay.